everyone, welcome back to the MyClayCo studio. Today we are going to be having a play with some texture mats. Now I love texture mats because they're a really quick and easy way that you can add some nice depth to your clay creations. So we're going to be having a bit of a look at the tools that we use when we are rolling out our texture mats. We're also going to be looking at how you correctly roll your texture mat so that you can get a really nice even texture across your clay. I'm then going to show you a few different techniques that can help you make those textures pop. So stay tuned, we're first going to get stuck into these tools. Now I don't use too many tools when I am rolling texture mats, but of course probably the most important one is our actual texture mats. So I've got a few different ones here today. We're going to be using the MyClayCo texture mats as well as the Coral Cockatoo texture mats, but you can use whatever you have handy. The other things that I do use when I'm using texture mats, probably the most important one is going to be your roller. So that's going to help us roll that texture onto your clay. You're also going to need a work surface. So I almost always work on a gloss ceramic tile. And the other thing that is really, really handy to make sure that you get an even thickness on your clay when you're rolling out your texture mat are depth guides. Now, if you don't have depth guides, you can use something else like pop sticks or something so that you can get that even thickness. Otherwise, you've got to kind of eyeball it and make sure that you are applying a even pressure across the whole thing, which can be a little bit tricky. The other thing that I've got here, which is optional, but I find it very useful, is an acrylic clay press. Now, if you don't have an acrylic, it's always a tongue twister. If you don't have an acrylic clay press, you can also use something like a glass coaster, or you could just use a tile. Probably even a book would work a hard covered book would work in a similar way, but I'm going to show you in just a second how I use that. All right, so we've looked at our tools. We're now going to have a look at how we correctly roll our texture mats onto our clay so that we can get a really nice, deep and even texture across your clay. So I'm going to show you two different ways that we can do this today. Okay, so I am going to show you two different ways that you can roll out your texture mats. So what we're going to do first is just grab our 2mm depth guides like this. And we're just going to roll out our clay. So and I've preconditioned this clay. Beautiful. Then I've got our heart quilt texture mat that we're using here. So this is a Coral Cockatoo one. And I'm just going to pop that down on my clay. Now, one of the tricks is that you need to actually anchor your texture mat into your clay before you roll out the rest of it. So there are two ways to do this. Now, the first one is just, if you just do like a little roll here at the start, and that'll anchor it in this bottom bit here. And then we'll just be able to roll across the whole thing and it's going to stay put. Okay, and I've got to change up my depth guides. So let's put our 3s down here, and this will mean that we can use these to get a really even press on here. And if you want to get a really nice deep imprint, you do have to use just a little bit of muscle. So, just gonna pull this up. And we have our beautiful imprint on there, and I'll just give you guys a look at this. You can see it's nice and deep and even. Okay. So we might just pop this one to the side, and I'm going to show you a different way and probably my more preferred method of how you can do this. Okay, so I've just grabbed a second tile here, and I've got some more preconditioned clay. So this time I'm using Cernit Sahara, And I'm just going to roll this onto my tile. Okay, and then just grab our depth guides to make sure we've got an even thickness here. Dokie. And on this one, we're going to be using our tropical leaves texture mat. So what I'm going to do is just place my mat on top here. And then I'm going to actually use the clay press to anchor it. So I'm just going to press down. Now the reason why this is my preferred method is you may find with the one that I just showed you before, you still get some texture mats that even when you try and anchor them in that bit down the bottom, they might still slip forward a little bit. I find that if you use this technique and anchor it with an acrylic tile, because it's kind of anchored itself in multiple points, you definitely get less of that slipping and sliding around. All right, so we've anchored that in, and then we are just going to roll down on our texture mat. And I've got these depth guides here again, so we can make sure we get a really nice even imprint. All right, let's peel it off. Beautiful, and I'll just give you a bit of a look at, that. Now, and I'm actually going to cut out a couple of pieces here because I'm going to show you a little technique in a moment, and we're going to use this for that technique. So alrighty, and I will just peel this off. And we will get these in the oven. I'll be back shortly. Okay, so our tropical leaves pieces are all baked, and I am just going to show you how you can highlight the texture that's on there using these acrylic paint pens. Now, these are Life of Color pens. They're really cool. They've got a smaller end there, and they've got a thicker end here. We are going to use the thinner end today, and all I'm going to do is just basically color in. Now, if you're worried about going outside the lines, you don't have to worry too much because it's the raised texture. Generally, if you kind of hit in that kind of direction, you're going to be hitting the raised bit there. And if you do accidentally happen just to spill over the side there, I find if I get in there quick enough, I can just use a baby wipe to wipe it away. See how these are really thin, but I'm still managing to hit the texture every time. So I think holding the pen kind of on a little bit of an angle rather than right upwards definitely helps. And I have just got a little bit of the paint pen over here. So hopefully I have got there quick enough, and you can see I've just wiped that with the baby wipe and I've managed to get in there quick enough. And we're all done. Let's take a little look. Now with these acrylic paint pens, I do like to seal them afterwards. So once we've gone through the other techniques, we'll be coming back so that I can show you what sealers I use. So next up, we are going to be using some metallic leaf to do something a little bit different. So I've got my pre-conditioned clay here again, and I'm just gonna burnish that to my tile. Just make sure we've got a nice even thickness here. Beautiful, and I'm just going to grab my metallic leaf here, slide it off, and I'm just going to pop that onto my clay. Oh yeah, it's sticking. It's all right. There we are. And then we're just going to wipe that down with our finger there. Now I don't use a roller to do this, because if you do roll across and apply pressure on there, you will find that it crackles, which is a cool effect. Definitely give that a go, but in this instance, that's not what we're looking for. All right, so, and I've got this Knit and Purl texture by Coral Cockatoo here. So I'm just gonna pop that down there. We're going to grab these other depth guides, and I am going to do my anchoring. And I've actually stood up to do this because I like to get a little bit of weight behind it. All right. Just pull that away. Okay. And we'll just roll that across here and pull that away, and you can see that we've got this beautiful golden effect on our clay here. Okay, so I'm just going to cut myself out a couple of statement studs here. 1, 2, and then I'm going to show you something very cool that you can do with sticky tape. Yes, that's right, you heard me correctly. Sticky tape. Now, these look very pretty and I love that gold effect, but there is something else very cool that you can do here. So this is just normal sticky tape, and I'm just going to wrap that around my finger, and on these ones here, I'm just going to lightly tap this. Now you might need to use a couple of bits of sticky tape. Just go around the other side. And as you can see, it ends up being this kind of like gilded effect, which is really cool. These actually look a bit festive, don't they? All right, and we will get these popped in the oven. Now, when we are using metallic leaf, we do want to put a sealer on them, so we will come back afterwards and we will seal these. Our next technique is going to be incorporating Chameleon pigment powder. Now, you can use mica powder or other pigment powders to the same effect, but these Chameleon powders, because they've got a bit of a dual tone effect on them, if you were into anything magical or mystical or whimsical, you are going to love this one. Let's get some mermaid vibes happening. So let me just burnish my clay here once again. And just make sure that I have that even thickness. And we are going to be using our Mermaid Scales texture mat here. And then I'm going to be brushing some of this Panther Chameleon powder on there. This Chameleon powder is going to give it a really cool two-tone kind of shimmer depending on how the light hits it. So let's first up get our texture on here. And you can see we've got a really nice Mermaid Scales imprint there, but it can be a little hard to see from afar, so we're just going to grab this Panther Chameleon powder, and this is going to highlight that beautiful texture. Now with pigment and mica, you don't need much. We're just going to, oh, look at that. Beautiful. Gosh. Well, these are going to be stunning. And I feel like the Chameleon powder is making them look very mermaidy. Right, now let me just have a look. Yes, I've got mermaid tail cutters. So I might just do just a little bit more to make sure that we've definitely got enough room for these cutters. All right. And I'm just going to peel this up. And you can see there, oh, losing my brush. It's got a beautiful shimmer to it. All right, let's get these ones in the oven. Now the final technique I'm going to show you today, I'm very excited about. We are actually going to be using alcohol inks with the texture mat. Sounds very fun. It is very fun, but it's also very messy, so that's why I've left it until last. All right, now I am going to roll up my sleeves for this one because it can get a little bit messy. But let's just start by getting clay on the tail. Peel up this texture. Absolutely gorgeous. Give you guys a really good look at that one. Beautiful. Now we're going to get everything out the way because this is the messy part. So I have my alcohol inks here. So I have brass, Baja blue, sorry, not sure how to pronounce that one, and teal. And I also have Claro Extender here. So Claro Extender basically just makes the inks kind of disperse out a little bit more. So I'm just going to start off by popping just a couple of little drops of the Claro Extender on here. Cool. We pop that one back, and then I will start here with the teal. I always find it so exciting using alcohol inks. Look at that go. And we're just going to pop a few drops here and there. This teal one is quite dark, so I don't know how much of that we're going to use. And then I'm going to pop on some of the Baja blue. And you can already start to see it go into those little nooks and crannies, and it is already looking amazing. And I've got my brass here. I just love the way that it spreads. Okay. Now I'm just going to grab a paintbrush. And I'm just going to use this paintbrush just to spread these a bit. Oh my gosh, it's looking amazing. And if you feel, say, perhaps that there's like a bit of this brass missing over here, you can dab a little bit there, add an extra little bit of sparkle. I reckon we need a little bit of more colour over here. And grab a bit. Okay, now I feel there are a couple of little bits that are missing a bit of this brass, so I'm just going to do a couple more dollops. That's one of the things that I do love about alcohol ink. It's so easy just to add a little more. We have got to be happy with that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let this dry for a bit. So we might come back in, say, about 20 minutes and we'll see how it's going. Okay, I am back. Now it's probably been about half an hour because I did get a little bit distracted, but we just want to have a look and make sure that the alcohol ink is definitely dry. So just gonna look, it is still a little bit sticky, but we are going to roll with it. So I've just got my cutter here and I'm just gonna cut out my pieces. And hopefully it is not so sticky that it all sticks to the gutter. Oh gosh. That is exactly what has happened. I have learnt my lesson on that one. We are going to come back again in another maybe 20 minutes and we're going to see if it's dry enough then. Okay, so I've come back again and it's still a little bit sticky, but I'm running out of time. So I'm going to change my tactic a little bit and I'm going to use this cutter because I feel like we might be able to actually cut it out without it sticking in there. Because it was just in that little top bit there that we had the issue. Beautiful. All right, let's peel this up. There we go. And we might as well squish this one up all together, get rid of that. What a shame. But oh well, we're going to end up with some gorgeous pieces here. So let's go get them in the oven. Now, before we get into sealing the creations that need to be sealed, we are just going to clean our texture mats that we've used. Now, the best ways that I have found to clean these texture mats, first of all, is baby wipes. So what I'm going to do is just grab this texture mat and give it a wipe here. I have tried lots of different things and I always find that baby wipes are the most effective. And as you can see, our baby wipe now has that pinkish residue on there. And that one is nice and clean. Now this one has metallic leaf on it. I find with metallic leaf, if I just give it a bit of a brush, it just kind of spreads it around a bit there. So what I do with this is I actually run it under water, and I find that that clears away the metallic leaf really quickly and easily. All right, so all of our pieces are baked. We've got them out of the oven, and there are a couple there that we do need to seal. So I have some satin glaze and gloss glaze from Sculpey today that I'm going to use. You can use whatever is your preferred glaze or varnish to use on polymer clay. I really like the Sculpey ones because they're made for polymer clay. The Cernit one is also great, and I do also sometimes use the Purl varnish, but as I said, you use whatever's your preferred one. Okay, so we have all of our pieces here. Give you a little look at them, and now we are going to seal the ones that need sealing. Now, this is actually most of these. The exception is just our plain ones that we didn't do anything to. So we'll just leave those ones there. I've got my little tubs here that I've put my gloss in. If you've watched our videos before, you've probably seen us use these, but we put them in these little tubs just so we don't get cross-contamination if perhaps there was still some pigment powder or something on one of these. So I've got my gloss and satin, and I think we might just keep it simple and just go the satin on all of these. So I've got my acrylic paint pen ones. I'm just going to pop a really thin glaze over there. Ooh. Smudge that a little bit. So just to prevent that smudging, just go over your pen first before you move on to the other bit. And as you can see here, this is the exact reason why we use these tubs, because we have a little bit of cross-contamination. So let me just get that fixed up. Okie dokie, and next up we are going to do these gold leaf ones. Okay, so those are all done. I do have these two left here, and I'm actually just going to go and give them a little resin just to see how they turn out. So I will go in. Well, these turned out amazing with that little resin dome on there. I mean, these ones still look cool. I really like them still, but the resin doming and that shine really just adds a little something to them. But they are all sealed and ready to go. I hope you've enjoyed our video today and can now go feeling confident about using texture mats. If you have enjoyed our video, we would love you to like and subscribe, and we will see you next time.